Welcome to the In Her Power podcast. My name is Kerri-Ann Appleton, and I'm an empowerment coach, a Reiki master, and a yoga teacher. But most importantly, I am human. I'm a human being and a spiritual being just like you. I started this podcast to bring more awareness, more tools, and more insights into being in your power. And in today's podcast episode, I want to talk a little bit more about what does that mean about being in your power. So I think there's some misconceptions by what power means. I think people think power means force, right? As in you're forcing something, as in you've got control over things in the outside world, in essence. But really, when I think about being in your power, I think about the control that you have on the inside world. And in all honesty, we don't have complete control of everything, but we do have control and responsibility for who we are, how we show up in the world, how we process things, right? Our perspective is in our control. Maybe when you were a young child, you took on a perspective that doesn't suit you now, but you have the power and the control to change it. So I want to dive a little bit deeper into a couple of areas when I talk about being in your power. What does that mean for you? And it's not basically meaning you're egotistical or you're a narcissist or you're like this powerful person that suppresses others or suppresses yourself. It's about really standing true to who you are, knowing what your values are in this moment, knowing what your belief systems are and that those belief systems feel authentic to you, having that kind of self-awareness, which helps you to have self-acceptance, which helps you to have self-love, right? And ultimately, when you step in and have all those things, you have a more powerful life in terms of a more loving, open, compassionate, empathetic. You start to see life from a different lens because you start to see yourself from a different lens, right? And you start to act differently. You behave differently. You have a different personality because you've created different actions, because you have different feelings, because you have different thoughts. Now, when it comes to our feelings, I want to emphasize this one a little bit more because, again, misconceptions around feelings. So many of us think that there are good feelings and bad feelings. And that's not true. There are feelings that feel amazing in the body, and there are feelings that feel uncomfortable in the body, right? And the more that you step into any of your feelings, or what I like to call emotions, and recognizing that your emotions are just energy in motion. I mean, the Latin root for emotion is energy and emotion. The more you start recognizing that it's just energy, first of all, and the more that you start embracing the energy within you and that's moving, and start accepting that those what is deemed bad emotions or negative emotions are not, they're a part of you, and they're not bad and they're not negative, they're just energy, the more they start to become comfortable. So, for example, when I started this work now 6 years ago, especially on the emotional side, it was really uncomfortable for me to cry, especially in front of people, right? How many of you have felt uncomfortable, one, crying in front of other people, and two, how many of you feel uncomfortable when other people start crying in front of you? Think about that. Are you uncomfortable crying in front of people? And also, do you feel uncomfortable when people cry in front of you? That emotion shouldn't be uncomfortable. Crying is natural. Sadness is natural, right? It's learning how to process it in a healthy way, learning to become comfortable with our emotions, no matter if it's sadness, no matter if it's joy, no matter if it's anger, if it's fear. It's in how we process it that's key. And most of us never learned how to process our emotions in a way that's really healthy for not only ourselves, but for our bodies and for those around us. So it's learning about how to do that kind of work And so when I talk about, shifting your personality because you shift your behaviors, because you shifted your actions, because you shifted your feelings, right? And you learned how to feel those feelings instead of suppress them, and you shifted your thoughts, that's where you have power. Because really, your thoughts and your feelings turn into your actions, and repeated actions turn into a behavior, and repeated behavior turns into personality, and your personality becomes your personal reality. So that's where your power lies. And that's the work that we do, or that I do, especially in my Facebook community and with my clients, is really dissecting all of that down and looking at where can we take our power back? Where are we giving it away because we have a belief system that's outdated? It's something that we took on in childhood and created a pattern around it and a programming. How can we start changing that and coming back to our most authentic self and feeling in our power? Now, when I say feeling in our power, I literally mean feeling it in the body. And that's what I want to talk about in this episode, is about where does your power show up, okay? How do you know when you're in your power? And it's a practice, especially if you've been, one, not tuned into your body, and two, not in your power, right? So our power shows up in our solar plex area of our body, which is our third chakra, okay? That's where fear also lies. So when you feel afraid, you've gotten those kind of like, ooh, it feels like it's gurgling in there. It's like you kind of feel a little upset in that kind of solar plex, stomach, intestinal area. Have you ever felt nervous? Like a lot of people feel nervous, public speaking, so speaking in front of people, and they kind of get an upset stomach feeling. You kind of almost feel a little gassy in there, or you could literally vomit. That's because you're stepping into fear, right? But on the other side of fear is trust, is confidence. And when you feel confident about something, it shows up differently in the body. So I'm going to give you an example. We're going to first play with fear, and then we're going to play with confidence. So the first one was fear. I want you to think of something that scares you. It can be anything. It can be a spider. It can be a snake. It can be public speaking. It can be skydiving. And maybe close your eyes and really think about that thing. So whether a spider comes and creeps and crawls up your arm, ooh, that actually gives me the like willies. Not a big fan of spiders, I will admit. Or if you're going to skydive, or going to get up and speak in front of a public, or even speaking in front of just a small group of your colleagues, that could be enough. Just notice as you close your eyes and step in and feel into that, notice in your body where it starts to show up. And I bet you, for most of you, it's going to show up in that solar plex area. And recognize how it feels. Okay? Now shake it off, open your eyes, shake, 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 shake. Think about something else. Think about the sun rising or the sunset, something different. And now think about something you are so confident at. It can be so simple as in opening a door. Like you can confidently open a door. And you're probably thinking, Kerri, that's so simple. That's so easy. It's kind of ridiculous. Or maybe it's making scrambled eggs. Like you're really good at making scrambled eggs. Or maybe it's driving a car. It can be that easy, but I want you to think about like opening a door. And notice as you think about like how confident you are that you can open a door, how that feels in the body and where it shows up. For most of you, it's going to show up again in that solar plex area of the body, and it's going to feel different. What I want you to do is start memorizing that difference. That's you in your power versus feeling dispowered. Okay, when you're in fear, you feel dispowered. You don't feel in your power. But when you're in confidence and trust, right, you feel in your power, and it feels differently in the same area of the body. So now the areas that I really focus on with my clients and in my work around really being in your power completely is all these specific areas of life. Finances, health, and that can be both mental, physical, emotional, career or profession, however you want to look at that. Relationships, both romantic and non-romantic relationships. It could be professional relationships as well. And spiritual. So there's 5. So health, finances, career, profession, relationships, and spiritual, in terms of whatever your spiritual belief practice is. So what I want you to do is think about, maybe get a piece of paper out and journal about this, but think about, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest, and you can get into your body and think, okay, let's start with financial. Where are you on that scale when it comes to being in your power? Do you feel confident? Do you feel strong in? And then note on the scale of 1 to 10 and really be honest with yourself, because if you're not honest with yourself, then you're not going to get the results that you really want to get, right? And so you want to be honest with yourself, because again, you're flexing that trust muscle, that confidence muscle in yourself. So be honest. You don't need to share this with anyone. This is just for you. And then go to the next one. And again, feel in your body. I feel like this. I feel like a 7, or I feel like a 3. And you'll feel it. You'll know kind of where you feel. And the more that you practice, you'll know more. It'll be easier to kind of identify. And really try to get out of the mind and get into the body. So go to the next one, health. And that includes your physical health. And you might want to break these down: physical health, mental health, emotional health, and kind of rate on a scale of 1 to 10. How powerful do I feel? 10 being I'm fully in my power. 1 being I'm not in my power. I'm barely in my power. Okay. This is going to help let you know where you're at. Okay. Now go to the next one, career and profession, and write down on a scale of 1 to 10, where am I in my power with this? Am I in a career where I feel like I'm thriving? Or a profession, whatever you chose, even if you chose to be a mother, or you chose to do something that's not traditional, whatever it is, being an entrepreneur, career, profession. Maybe you chose to be a student. That's okay too. That's part of your kind of, I'm going to categorize that as career, profession, even being a student. Do I feel like I'm in my power? Do I feel like I'm thriving? Do I feel like I'm growing? Do I feel like, what's important to you when you think about power? Being seen. Can I be my most authentic self? Or do I have to play a role or play small? So I'm going to give you an example. When I had my old consulting company, there were a couple of clients I had to play a certain role in order to be accepted by them. I had to wear certain clothes, have a certain type of car, etc. And I played that game. And I chose not to be my most authentic self. And even though that job or those clients paid very well and was very prestigious, I didn't feel in my power, if that makes sense. So again, this is not about blame or judgment. This is about you just learning to understand where you're in your power and where you're not in your power, because then you can start to make changes once you know where you're at. So that's career, profession, or if you're a student. Next is relationships. And maybe you want to break this down by family, romantic, and friendships. And you can break them down even more, colleagues if you want to, because we know relationships are different depending on the situation. But again, review where you are. Feel in your body. Where am I in my power? Am I on the scale? Am I fully in my power in my romantic relationships, or do I play small in some areas? Am I fully in my power with my family? Like, for example, for many years, anytime I was around my family, it was like my power went meow down the scale, okay? And relationships too, romantic ones is what I want to say. But friendships, I always stayed really high in my power. So again, this is about observing. This is not judging or blaming. Moving on to the next one, spiritual. So spiritually, in terms of whatever your spiritual practice is, whether you're Christian or not, or atheist, however you connect to whatever source, and however you support yourself in your own kind of growth. Where are you in your power with that? Okay. So again, if you're a 10, you're fully feel in your power, and if you're a 1, you don't feel in your power in that essence. And again, this is not judging or blaming you. This is a guide. So I think we went through all 5 of them: health, career or profession, student, finances, relationships, and spirituality. Okay, great. So once you have an idea of where you are at, what I want you to do is take some time to sit and just reflect on maybe getting into the finer details of each one, and kind of having an idea, where do I play small? Okay, where do I play small, or where am I showing up small? And it's not about blaming someone else by, try not to use the where is someone making me feel small, because that puts your power in their hand. It's where am I choosing to play small because of someone else's actions or words or things that they do, okay? This will start giving you an idea of where you can start to shift. Now, I'm not going to suggest you to try to shift everything at once. It's going to be, you're confronting yourself basically. It's going to be a challenge for some things, because you're going to have to let go of beliefs, old beliefs that you've been carrying for a long time. Remember, I went back to thoughts, feelings, actions, behaviors, personality. It's been your personality. And so you are going to take some time to really change it, and you're going to confront your identity. And in some essences, you might have what's called an identity crisis, and that's okay. So start small and start with the lowest hanging fruit of things you can start to shift, to start being more in your power. But the first step is to gain awareness to where you're at. And this is such a great practice. I actually do this every 6 months. I go through and I evaluate where am I at when it comes to these areas. Because sometimes what happens is I focus on one and I drop another, so I'm out of balance, and realize, wait, I got to come back into balance. So for example, in my life, I have felt like I can't do spirituality and profession at the same time. I can't do work on myself and just connect with whatever higher being I choose. And for me, it's the universe, and do professional stuff. I have to choose one or the other, I felt like. And so learning to break down that belief and pattern so that I could do both. I could work on both at the same time and be in balance. So this is something I do, is I check in with myself every 6 months, and know that sometimes we get bumped off a course too, because things happen in our life. Like right now we're going through a pandemic. So lots of stuff and shifts are happening, and sometimes we just get bumped off course. That's okay. It's going to happen. But every time you check in with yourself and just kind of, where am I at right now? How can I get back on track? So the first step is to build awareness. The second step is to reflect and think about, where are you playing small? Where can you step up and be more in your power? And start putting action steps to that. And again, don't bite off more than you can chew. You don't need to eat the whole elephant. Do the lower hanging fruit first, and then check in with yourself every 6 months. The more and more you do this, and of course there's tons of resources. You're not going to have all the answers. So I have this beautiful community called In Her Power. It's for women that want to be doing this work, that want to have a safe space to share some of the struggles they go through, to share their celebrations, to receive more resources and support from like-minded people. Of course, I have a coaching program. I'm doing lots of different, I run a book club. I have a 21-day Love Fest program, etc. There's lots of opportunities, and I'm not the only one. There's so much out there for you. But the first thing is that there's so much out there, but you need to know where you are first in your power. And so having an idea of first where you're at, and accepting that's just where you're at without any judgment. And from there, you can start to move forward. I'm going to give you another kind of example of this. So I'm a runner, and I hadn't been running for a couple of years for a number of reasons. One, I had a serious injury about 3 years ago in my right leg, and it took a long time to heal that. And so when I started to run again, I kind of got lazy about it, because like, oh, the pain of running again. I used to run long distances and faster, and right now I can barely even do 3 kilometers, and it hurts so bad, and I just don't want to get up and do it. I got into that mindset. But I just committed to myself this year that no, I'm going to get back into running. I'm going to run my fastest 10K, because I noticed for me, when I set a goal like that, like an event, that I actually push myself harder and I get myself out of bed. That's not always the case for everything, but for running, that's been my case. So I just set myself up for success. So I set a commitment of a 10K, and I want to run my fastest 10K ever. So, and 10K is 10 kilometers for those that don't know. And it's 6.2 miles for those in the US. Anyways, I started off the year pretty strong, or coming into the new year pretty strong, because I started running again. My friend was visiting from Austria, who I used to run with here, and we went running. And then a couple days after the new year, I went to go out the door to go running, and my back spasmed. I mean, I was like on my back. And at first I was a bit disappointed, because my starting place was here for that 10K to get here, and it went to here, basically. Now I'm like, oh, I'm way back here. And of course I was disappointed and thought, well, maybe this is not the right goal I should be working with. And again, I was like, okay, stop getting into that mindset that this is not the right goal that I should be working with, and get into the mindset that this is the right goal that I should be working with. My computer just like really shut down for a minute. Let me hold on. Okay, we're back. So I had to just fix something. My screen just went black. Sorry about that. So this is the right goal that I should be working with. You know, I just now have a different starting point. So the same when you start to look at where you are on the scale of 1 to 10, really recognize where you are right now, and recognize where I was with running was like maybe an 8 or a 9 3 years ago, and now was way back down at a 3. And of course that felt like disappointing, but again, that's just a starting place. I can get myself back up. If I really want to reach that goal, I just get myself back up. And so I had to start from a different place than what I thought I had to start from. And I had to start rehabilitating my back and making it stronger. I tried to get out the gate without really taking care of my body in terms of strengthening it. And now I have a stronger body. I mean, this week alone, I did 2 5K runs, and they were pretty fast, which is pretty awesome. And in the next couple of weeks, I'll start adding distance. And knock on wood, I haven't had any back issues. So that's my new starting point. And that was my new starting point. That's what I want to say is try to let go as you do this stuff. Do not judge yourself. Don't get disappointed at where you're at, okay? There's always ups and downs in life, okay? But you know you can take your power back. So if you are at a certain place financially once and you're way down here, especially during this pandemic, and you've lost a job, or you've had to reduce your salary, but you still have your expenses, it's okay. This is going to be your starting point, and you can take your power back. Okay? This is the process that I work with, and you too can do this. I have faith in you. The thing about it is you have to have faith in you. And again, that comes back to that third chakra, that solar plex. That's where your confidence is. And so it's rebuilding that confidence. And with confidence comes self-acceptance and self-love. And the more that you step into really accepting yourself and loving yourself, and really understand how worthy you are, and you don't need to prove your worth, you're already worthy, the more that you will attract into your life, and the more that you will feel in your power. So that is it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. I've got some special guests coming up in the next 2 episodes. I'm really, really excited to bring them on and interview them or have conversations with them and share this with you. If you enjoyed this episode, I want to learn more about my work, I'll definitely in the show notes put my website. It's just myfirstname.com. If you're not a part of my In Her Power community, I really welcome you to, or invite you to come and join us and be a part of this loving, amazing community. And until next time, ciao, ciao, and beijos.